Welcome into the Sun Belt Syndicate with you from the first kick to the last pitch. And before we get going along too far here, Marv, quick shout out to the women's basketball team of Marshall as they took home the WNIT title. And I think the NIT does it right. Marv, we're going to get your thoughts on this. They got to host the championship game at their place. Do you like that for the smaller tournaments?
Yeah, for the smaller tournament for sure. That's really cool. I mean, got to be a phenomenal experience for the players and for the fans, right? Obviously, the big tournament, no, you couldn't do it that way. You've got to have everybody travel in. There's too much money involved. But yeah, super cool, man.
Yeah, I love the fact. I mean, they sold it out, first of all. And judging from pictures, I would say it did look like an actual butts and seat sellout.
Yeah.
So full credit to them for filling up that stadium and having the place jumping for the ladies basketball team. It well deserved. They didn't even lose double digit games this year. I think they lost 9 total. So phenomenal year. It's hard to end ever in college sports with a win as your last game of the season.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you do, typically a pretty good year. So congratulations to them on the successful WNIT title. Hopefully they can keep that rolling as the women's basketball on the Sun Belt side of things. I know the men's basketball has struggled to really have somebody take a stranglehold and do a lot in the postseason, unfortunately. But the women's side did very well, putting in, I think there was 5 or 6 teams a total across postseason basketball play for the women's side of things. So great to see them flourishing there, and really no surprise with Marshall being one of those teams. Wrathful Soda saying, sup? What's going on, man? This is a new name. I haven't seen that one, so thanks for jumping in here. Marv, well, first of all, we'll just jump in with a little Easter talk, man. Do you have a baseball tournament, I'm guessing, over the Easter weekend?
Yeah, both my boys played Saturday, and then had the in-laws and my mom in town, so got to spend time with them, have the Easter egg hunt and all the candy and all the food, and it was a good time, man. How about you?
Are you the one that has to like grill and prepare food, or is everyone kind
No, my mother-in-law and my wife took care of all that. We did a very non-traditional, so we did pulled pork and ribs.
Nice.
Yeah, so and they wanted to cook it, so we got to sit back and relax, which was nice.
Very nice. Yeah. I traveled to Pennsylvania to see my sister's baby for the first time and see most of the rest of the family. So that was a nice little thing. Decent little travel, like 6.5, 7 hours, but not too awful. But yeah, I didn't have to do any of the cooking either, especially since we were traveling on the road.
Yeah.
So nothing too bad there. Did you ever have an adult Easter egg hunt? Have you heard of these things?
I think if you tell me, I'll be like, oh yeah, I've definitely heard about that, but enlighten me.
So my aunt did one for us when we were kind of college age or just out of college, I think, for some of us. But me being the oldest, so that was probably me. Everyone else is probably still in college. Anyway, they go out and hide and paint beer bottles.
Huh.
Just paint them up like pastel color, just Easter egg, stuff. Like typically the labels, you're not painting the glass bottles and stuff and maybe some cans. But yeah, you just paint them up, trying to hide them, kind of camouflage them. Typically do it at night, so it's a little bit more of a challenge for adults than during broad daylight. Also, it's more fun when the beers are cold, so they typically paint them while they're not cold, put them in the fridge, get them cold, hide them, and then you go find them real quick. So adult Easter egg hunts, it was pretty fun to see what you got, because again, in the dark you can't see whether it's one you want to grab or not necessarily. So there's some fun ones, some good ones, and maybe some bad ones on purpose, but
I was thinking airplane bottles and Easter eggs, but that works too.
That you could probably do a variation like that. Yeah, that would be something you could do. But yeah, I've only done like one of those, but it was a blast, and I would recommend it to anybody who's in that stage of life where you want to drink number of beers at a time anymore.
That's a before kids activity.
Exactly. Yeah. Not so much nowadays. Now it's like make sure there's candy in them for the kids to have fun with. But looks like Mauricio Hernandez maybe saying hello here. Sorry, I am, and Marv knows this. I'm on a different computer than usual. The screen is not as big, so it's harder for me to read some of these things. But still, share your questions and comments live. We love to go through it with you guys. And Marv, I called this episode "Anyone Want." We'll go through what the top teams are here in just a second, but like my question is, just outside the top couple teams,
Yeah.
who we got? Who's next in line? Who wants it more?
Man, we talked about it last week, right? There were some series with some teams that were kind of in that 4 through 7 range that had an opportunity to really separate themselves, move up into the top 3 or 4. Some of them did. Some of them, in my opinion, squandered a phenomenal opportunity, kind of, coming into the midway point of conference schedule where they might look back and say, man, if we would have took that series or if we would have won that rubber match game or whatever it is, maybe it looks different going into the conference tournament, RPI wise or whatnot. But there were definitely a couple of teams that I thought had a golden opportunity to kind of take the next step, and it didn't happen. And some teams did. So, and it's top heavy. So
Absolutely. So let's take a look first at our weekly picks. And unfortunately, because of the Easter weekend and it being a little bit rushed, a little faster than usual, I didn't want to put anybody under the gun to try and get their picks in like super quick with just a few hours to do so. So I just said, I think the fairest thing here is to not put anybody under pressure like that because I struggled to get this thing out. I think technically the graphic actually released after the first game or two went live, but the picks were in well before that. I was driving from North Carolina to Pennsylvania, but we got this thing out. And Marv, I'm glad we did because look at that. I finally took
you finally got one. And buddy, I sucked last week. That was bad.
Yeah, I did not see your week coming. I mean, Seth and I were probably about where we thought we might be. I mean, I know Seth thought he was going to have a better week, I'm sure, but with where he has rounded out into form for the year as far as the series record is gone, not terribly surprising. Yeah, I was very surprised to see you only take 1 week. So how's that breaks down is I got 3 correct, Seth got 2, you got 1. Yeah. Which one, I guess, like if you're looking at your picks here, which one maybe surprised you the most that it didn't come through?
Arkansas State and Troy. That one jumps off the page to me. ULM and Georgia State. And then, man, listen, Coastal Carolina hadn't lost a conference game in almost a freaking year, right? Like, yeah. I think I have it written down that when they lost game 2, that snapped a 32-game win conference streak dating back to last year. So, does it super surprise me they didn't sweep? No, but they swept everybody for almost a calendar year. So those are the 3 that kind of jump out to me.
Yeah, definitely. So I finally listened to Chad Dickens, no relation, but he kept telling me, and he told you too, both of us in the same breath, stop picking Southern Miss to sweep. So I finally did pick against Southern Miss to sweep, and ODU did take a game. So that was one that really jumped to my favor. I definitely leaned on App a little too heavy from what Marshall had their struggles coming in. I thought App would win the series, and I thought, hey, they're at home. This might be the one where they can get 3 and kind of surprise some people. They ultimately won it 2-1. None of us picked them to win that one.
No, I mean, they had been in a lot of close series. I mean, they took the ODU series, right? But
yeah,
we had seen too many close games go the other way. As an App State alum, really happy to see them pull the series off. And I was kind of looking at their schedule a little bit, man. They've got an opportunity here towards the back end of the schedule to win some series and really jump themselves up in the standings.
Yeah, absolutely. Look who it is. Artie Cat saying, hi, guys. Yeah, Artie Cat is definitely going to be a guest picker. He's also going to make an appearance on the show. We're still working on that. Again, with kind of the rush of last week and this week kind of off the holiday weekend, I wasn't going to put that on anybody to try and make it work. But we're definitely going to have Artie on here very shortly as Texas State is going to bow out. That, again, like you said, that was another one that was maybe surprising kind of thinking Texas State would sweep the lowly Georgia Southern, but Georgia
Georgia
Southern
Southern's
has
been playing decent baseball as of late.
They have. We're going to get into power rankings later, and there's a surprise there, I think, that we're going to see. And I do want to correct myself. We said nobody picked App State to win. I actually did pick App State to win the series, just again in a sweep, which was not correct. Artie Cat shouting out a huge congratulations to Chase Mora, the new Texas State home run king, bypassing Goldschmidt.
So I was going to have a trivia question for you when we got to that series. Artie Cat kind of broke it. But yeah, Chase Mora tied the record in the first game, broke the record in the second game, and then for good measure, he just went ahead and hit another one in the third game because that's kind of what he does. But I'm going to give you – I'll give you part of the trivia question. Do you know who Paul Goldschmidt is?
I know that I've heard the name. I don't yeah.
He's just been in the majors for 11 years. Kind of was with the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals. The Cardinals when I started following him. He's now with the Yankees. But yeah, that's I didn't realize he went to Texas State, and Paul Goldschmidt's a big old dude. So yeah, Mora, congratulations, man. You're in the history books.
That's awesome, especially to kind of do that also in our last season with them being in the Sun Belt to have a record set. To add to the records there. That's pretty cool. Just to go over, I didn't actually update. I realized I didn't update the overall standings, at the top of there. I'll do that before we release this graphic to the masses on social media, as I didn't do it today. You still lead the overall picks, correct games versus incorrect games, not series. You are 92 and 28. Phenomenal.
How the heck do I only miss 8 games, manage to get one series correct? That's the game that we play for. I saw a couple of new people comment, and they're probably looking at this like, holy shit, these guys are really terrible at this baseball picking.
Yeah.
It is unfair, the game we play. Not only do you have to pick the series, but you have to pick the games correctly. You can't just say, well, Coastal's going to win. It's like, well, which games do they win?
Right, because I would think like for Coastal, for Southern Miss, we'd all have very, very similar records almost every week, right? If we're just picking who's going to win, that's why like, hey, let's put some stuff that gives some separation. But, Seth wanted to change the rules. We said no. So we threw him a bone and said we will include the overall win-loss record because he is doing better there. He's close to you at 87 and 33 overall. So not too far behind you. And then even though I've crushed Seth in the series picks so far, I am sitting back at 83 and 37. So I got some ground to make up on the games themselves. Here's the crazy stat for this week. Even picking different series outcomes, all three of us had at least some variation of different outcomes. Specifically, look at the Georgia State ULM series. I went with a sweep for ULM. You went ULM 2-1. Seth actually got that one correct, picking Georgia State to win 2-1. So there's just one like outlier that all three of us, very different picks. Every single one of us finished the overall record for the weekend at 15 and 6.
That's not terrible.
No, not too bad. I mean, again, different picks that we all came up. I think that's the first time that I can remember doing it, that all three of us had the exact same record throughout the week. So
you missed one game per. So you miss one game per series. It doesn't kill your overall record, but it kills your series record.
It does. Yeah. You were 16.
It was bad.
7. You were 16 and 7 over 16 and 17. Sorry, 16 and 17 in your series picks. And we're clearly in the lead. And now you're sitting at 17 and 23. And now I'm closing in at 15 and 25 in those. But yeah, this is why it's fun. This is why we do it, just to have a lot of fun with it. Ben James jumping up saying, what's up? Wolves up. Artie Cat jumping back in saying, and Marv, I hope your son's doing well. Huge kudos to him.
He's doing, his nose is better, but a funny story. So game last week, he gets in Little League, one of the older teams asked him to come and play, and he first at bat, he's going against the best pitcher in our Little League. Kid's 13, who's still age eligible by Little League standards and is the starting pitcher for his middle school baseball team. Kid was like 68 miles per hour. Second pitch of his at bat, right in the ribs.
Oh,
Can't catch a break.
jeez.
Yeah.
Was that a quick recovery, or did that take a little while? Because that ribs thing, that can hurt.
No, I mean it dropped him. It took him a second to kind of catch his breath, and he got up and walked to first base. I mean, he's 10 playing with a bunch of 12-year-olds, so like he's holding back tears because it hurt. I mean, he's still got a welt there, but that was in the bottom of the first inning. He played the rest of the game, got a big welt, and we came home, and I was like, "Hey man, they call you up. You want to play again?" He was like, "Nah, that kid's pitching."
Can't blame him there, but that's awesome that he realizes, like, I'm not showing my soft side here, and I'm gonna walk this side. Stayed in the game, everything.
He wanted to. I could see it all over his face. He was fighting it back, but I know it hurt. But it's part of the game, man. You're gonna get hit. It happens.
Yeah, I was right over here, right off screen from where I'm shooting this right now. We were playing knee hockey earlier tonight, and I was like rifling the ball at my son a couple times, right, just hitting it hard. It's a soft thing. It's not even like a hockey puck or anything. I caught him right in the eye, like hard. Yeah. He's only 7, so he took it a little differently than your son did, but it had to hurt because he was surprised. But anyway, yeah, anytime you get hit and you're just trying to show, I'm fine, I'm gonna be okay. It ain't easy.
It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben saying hopefully A-State can rebound versus Memphis tomorrow and versus Coastal in Jonesboro this weekend. That one's not going to be easy to rebound on.
That's another one that, considering what Arkansas State has coming up, I think they left a little meat on the bones this past weekend.
Yeah, I do agree. So let's jump back into that with this week's power rankings. And for the first time this year, these power rankings took into account what happened over the weekend. We typically release these on Friday before the games start over the weekend. This time around, because of the shortened week and the holiday, we just decided to take into account what happened over this past weekend and order these teams up. So we got a new number 1, Marv. Coastal sitting up there at 1.
Yeah, I mean, well-deserved, right? You've lost one conference game essentially in a year. They surprising the way they lost the second game this weekend, to be completely honest with you. But I think overall right now they're playing the best baseball in the conference.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I think I was the only one to rank them 1 last week.
Correct.
Because Southern Miss had just dropped just enough for me to be like, man, right now, I think I'm putting Coastal over them just a little bit. Now it's become undoubtedly 1 and 2 as it sits right now. Undoubtedly 1 and 2. Now here's where the title of the show comes from. Who wants third? Not only who wants it, who's laying claim to it. And Marv, I think 3 through 7 or 8 or maybe even 9, you're just saying like, who's gonna like take the next step and prove that they deserve to be number 3 in this rankings? Because I can tell you right now, that's where it starts to differ. I think I have a stat up on how these clear number 1 tier, all right, the top 2 teams we just mentioned, Coastal, Southern Miss. Tier number 2 includes Texas State, ULM, A-State, and South Alabama. So not quite the 7 and 8, like I said, but those teams are in it. But in the poll itself, 3 through 6 different placements for all of these teams. But it looks like Texas State for this week held the 3rd spot.
Yeah, I think clearly right now they are the 3rd best team in the conference. I think there's it's 1 and 2, a little bit of a gap. Then to me, it's Texas State, then a little bit of a gap. And then 4, 5, and 6, it's like, especially with 4 and 5, like I think both of them, once again, left a little meat on the bone, squandered a little bit of an opportunity to kind of close that gap between 4, 5, and 3. And then App, just little recency bias. I mean, coming in and winning that, and they'll have an opportunity to move up the polls a little bit against ULM this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I differed. We have ULM at 4. I personally have them in that 3rd spot right now. One reason I wore the Warhawk shirt, Marv reminded me that they play our favorite team this week.
How dare you? How dare
you? To my credit, on the way to my son's school this morning, I wore the hoodie that Seth got me for App State baseball. Okay. So I was repping. Always wrap. But I went with ULM in my poll at 3 because guess who they swept? The team above them at number 3, Texas State, earlier
Yeah,
this season.
that was earlier this season.
It was.
I think Texas State's heated up and ULM's cooled down just a little bit.
I would say I'm starting to kind of get there. And again, that's why, I mean, like I was kind of coin tosses before between them for me as well. But again, I had to look at something that like helped prove an argument. And to me, the fact they went head to head and ULM claimed it right now still has, if ULM gets swept this next weekend, they ain't going to stay there for me. But I was looking for something to say, hey, this team right now is here. But like you said, like we talked about, it's definitely not clear. It's a muddy water situation, and these teams are going to have to continue battling to see who can stand up there. Let's talk about the Cajuns, and just to jump over to a segment that we didn't really have really assigned for any specific spot, so Artie brings it up, so it fits here just as well. Yes, did you see Lafayette's coach go nuclear on JMU's dugout? Locked On Sunbelt did a segment about it. Lafayette in the danger zone. Absolutely. So they've dropped tremendously in our power poll, easily on the left side last week. Now they are number 11.
The crazy thing is, if you look at overall wins and losses, not conference, right? Louisiana's 19-13, which they tied for the second most wins in the conference. They are 4-8 in conference. They are 4, so which means that they were 15-7 coming in, or 15-5 coming in. And since they've gotten to conference, they have just not played great baseball. I think if you look at 10-11, right, if you were to go look at our preseason poll, they're significantly further back than where everyone thought they would be.
Absolutely. Like you just kind of mentioned in a different way, Cajuns, number 25 in the country by the poll we go off, which is D1 baseball. And they just haven't been able to stay at that level. Although, like you said, that overall record still has them looking decent until you look closer. And like you said, they're just struggling mightily in conference. And let's be honest, they haven't played the Southern Misses and the Coastals of the world just yet.
That's the thing is I was just looking. I was like, what? They haven't. They haven't played the top of the conference yet. It's coming for them. Louisiana, they've got Southern Miss this weekend.
Yep.
That's I don't know, man. Was their coach was on saying if they didn't make the regional, it was doom and gloom in Lafayette, right? That was the one, correct?
Yeah, I mean, these people down there live and die with baseball. I mean, I think I've said this a couple times on the show. I was there for one of the football games against App State, and I was like, yeah, this is a pretty cool atmosphere here and everything. Certainly it was a weekday game, so the crowd wasn't full or anything like that. But they were all telling me, you think this is good or decent? You need to come to a baseball game. And I'm like, there's not another team in this conference, even as good as Southern Miss is. I don't think people would clamor and say baseball is even better than football. Southern Miss, yeah, they haven't had some great seasons in football until this last year where they had a pretty good one. But I think the atmosphere and the amount of people and everything would still have Southern Miss fans telling you that football is better as far as an all-day adventure, all this stuff. But Lafayette is different. They're saying, no. Baseball is bigger here than football is. And so for them to miss and not meet expectations is probably going to be really surprising and disappointing for that fan base.
No, I mean, if the season were to end today, they wouldn't make the tournament.
I can't think so either.
No, I mean, they would. No, they're top 10 teams only make it. Right now, they are 12th in the standings.
Oh, in the Sun Belt tournament. Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha. No, if the season ended today, which thank God it doesn't, there's still 6 weekends of conference ball left. There's, we're almost at this weekend or next weekend's the midway point. There's still plenty of time, but if the season ended today, they would not be in the tournament.
Yep. And like Artie says, they would miss that regional too that they looked forward to before the season started. Quick shout out from Ben for A-State women's bowling. They continue to just crush it in bowling. I don't know what makes Jonesboro, Arkansas a hotbed for bowling, but there they are. Final Four in Cleveland. Started Friday versus Vanderbilt. and their 18th consecutive NCAA tournament appearance. Even Artie Cat jumping on that, saying, "Hey, look at Arkansas State go!"
Red
So,
Wolves,
yeah,
Red Wolves bowling. Let's
yeah,
go.
they were tremendous. They literally went bowling in football. Then they went to some postseason play for women's basketball, losing to Marshall team that won that title, and now they're literally bowling in the Final Four. So, congrats to them as they continue to literally roll along. Haha, dad joke. Chee. Hey, one last thing on the power rankings before we move on. Look at that. Georgia Southern no longer in the basement here.
Yeah, it's once again, this is not where we think they're going to end up. This is where they are right now. And yeah, they won a series.
Yeah, they won a series, and yeah, they gave Texas State a little bit of a hard time. Texas State still won that one 2-1, but Georgia Southern competitive against what we deem right now, as it sits, the number 3 team in conference.
Hey, I want to make one more comment on
Yeah.
Louisiana really quick, and I know we'll get to their series. I wrote this note down. So Louisiana, even though they lost the weekend series to JMU, they won the first game. That was their first opening game series win this season.
I did not realize that.
Neither did I until I read it, and I was like, holy crap, that's if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that we would be, 6 weeks in to how many weeks are we in now?
I think we're going into the 8th or just finished the 8th.
Yeah, if you would have told me that it would have took that long for them to win the opening game of the Sun Belt Series, I would have questioned who they played. We've already done that. Right. Then I would have told you that you need to wake up from the alternate reality that you're living in. So, and just once again, a couple teams that we thought were going to be way up there have underperformed. And talk about a ULM team, you're wearing the shirt, right? Lose their head coach, and they're playing really good baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, before we get into the standings, we're going to take a look at the standings real quick. Going back to that, the Bobcats swept the Cajuns. There you go. Texas State took it to the Cajuns earlier this year, even after getting swept by ULM. So again, that's why it's hard right now. All these teams, like there's not enough of them that have all played each other to know exactly where we should sort these things out, which is kind of making it fun and interesting. But yeah, let's get back to Artie's comment. Did you see the clip of Deggs losing it on the JMU dugout?
Yeah, I did.
I think most of the college baseball world has seen this thing. Yeah. He has been suspended. That will include the midweek game and I believe the first week game of this weekend series versus Southern Miss. That's a big deal, right? Yeah. I mean, you play, I don't know, ODU, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, maybe not as big of a deal, but certainly against a team like Southern Miss, you want your skipper there to lead you to battle there. So that's a big deal. I think it was him that maybe lost somebody and he had stepped away from the team. So probably emotions pretty high. Yeah. And did you see what started this whole thing?
No, I did. I just saw the clip of him going ape shit crazy. So no, I don't have any reference around it.
Gotcha. So I don't know if it was a pop-up or the first baseman had the ball clearly as the runner was at the JMU first baseman had the ball clearly in front of the first base, was just waiting for the guy who's going to, tag him out. The Cajun player dipped the shoulder and tried to truck him.
Okay.
And you could tell like the JMU first baseman just had no idea that type of situation was about to hit him, right? Like it wasn't like this guy was like, I'm bowling through you. It was just like a last second dip the shoulder and try and just blast him. That obviously didn't go over well. So as the story goes, JMU's dugout and players started chirping the Cajuns. Well, look, JMU's on the field, right? So who are they chirping? Well, the coach that's standing there outside of first base is getting the trash talk. And if rumors are to be true, curse words, who knows how bad it got.
Yeah.
I've heard Sunbelt mics or ESPN Plus mics have picked up some of the audio to help verify. I have not heard that. I have not seen that personally. That's out there. Yeah, already kind of saying shoulder hit. Yeah, he dipped that shoulder into him pretty good. But once they saw that and heard that on the Cajuns dugout side, obviously that wasn't going to sit right with the coach. Yeah. That the coach was sitting there taking the brunt of the trash talk and the disrespect. And again, high emotions from a guy who's just gone through something outside of the sport of baseball, probably brought a little bit of that into this situation, and understandably so, right? But it looks bad because he's over there essentially challenging the entire James Madison bench. And, you know, I will give some leeway here because the JMU players that I saw, once the camera got closer and kind of was the back of Deg's, shoulder and everything, you could see the players, and they're not at that point continuing to yell or trash talk. It doesn't appear.
Okay.
At least the kids right in front of them certainly are not. And the coaches on the JMU staff don't seem to be either. But you could say, if truth be told on the beginning aspect of this, that the coaches should have done something to quell some of the other talk. But all of this also stems from a physical altercation on the field. So, Marv, with all that being said, you're a coach. You've hopefully not been in a situation quite like that.
Nope.
But like, what do you do when your team starts talking to the other team, or takes exception to a hard-nosed play that probably is the unwritten rule, right? Like, you're going to be out, man. Let's not try and truck the first baseman. If you're trying to score a run, maybe different. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
So a couple of thoughts. Number one, he's been through something off the field. His team's not playing good. Maybe a little hockey mentality, like let me get the boys riled up a little bit.
True.
Right? Didn't work. They lost 5-1. So and the level of baseball that I coach does not equate to the college level. But one thing I would not ever take is if another coach were to talk down to one of my players, we're going to have words, and if words lead to something else in the parking lot, so be it. Don't you talk to one of my players negatively. Kids chirping at kids, it's going to happen, right? And then kids chirping at adults, I would have left it on the first base coach to handle that situation himself, but he's probably already fired up anyway. Just a kind of a messy situation, altogether. But he was ready to go. I'll give him that. He was ready to go. I can see why those boys, if they were chirping, kind of got quiet because, obviously you got to respect him, right? He's a head baseball coach of a D1 university. You never know. Some of those kids could have been recruited by him and maybe knew him. But yeah, I think we had a situation a couple years ago with David Pollard at Duke. I can't remember who it was. One of the other coaches said something to one of his players, and he comes running out of the dugout, and he's just like, "Don't you talk to my players." Like, that's understandable. I think 18 to 21-year-old kids chirping at an adult, maybe a little bit different, but he's the skipper, man. He's got to have everybody on that team, whether it's a player, a staff member, the equipment guy. He's got to have their best interest at heart. So if he didn't like it, maybe he could have handled it a little bit better, but he handled it the way he handled it. He's a big boy. He'll take his 2-game suspension and be back on Saturday.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, like you said, hopefully it was a little bit more of like, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to get these guys going. Like you said.
I'm putting a stop to this now.
Yeah. Like the hockey coach who throws the sticks on the ice. Like, let's get these boys juiced up a little bit. But like you said, unfortunately for him and the team, it didn't quite work out. But, he did apologize, since apologized to say, this is not the side of me that, I want to show again. And again, emotions high, especially in the game of baseball, but again, outside of it as well, probably being a big factor. Ben James saying that tonight was A-State Baseball's first ever baseball coaches show at a place called Lost Pizza in Jonesboro. So that's pretty cool. I think they've had a number of coaches shows at Lost Pizza in Jonesboro. So definitely a place, if you're going to Jonesboro, especially Coastal Carolina fans maybe here, check out Lost Pizza. Seems to be a hit with the locals for there. When JMU was in Jonesboro,
take some of that royalty money.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, a little free ads. We'll help out the local businesses for sure. Absolutely. No problem doing that. All right, let's jump back into the standings as they sit right now. As you said, Coastal Carolina losing their first conference game in what feels like forever, but they do sit at 11-1 easily. The top of this conference. We've got 3 teams, including Southern Miss, Texas State, and ULM, all tied at 7-5. And then we have 5 teams sitting tied 6-6. That would include Arkansas State, South Alabama, JMU, Troy, and Marshall. Even though App State just beat Marshall in a series, they are only sitting at 5-7, as well as a surprising Georgia Southern team.
Yeah.
And yeah, isn't that funny, right? Georgia Southern, 5-7, 12-20 overall. And just underneath them is the Cajuns at 4-8, but 19-13 overall. That's like one of those crazy dichotomies that just can't be explained by looking at the standings.
I mean, it sticks out big time, right? It's like, huh, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. And a little understanding here of why the power poll or power rankings include ODU at the bottom is because they're also at the bottom of the standings. Look at that. So Georgia State, they're close, though. Really just a one-game difference in the overall records because they both sit with the Cajuns with 4-8 records. I don't know anything else you want to cover in the standings before we jump over to kind of rewind the week.
No, I mean it's just a jumbled mess. From 7-5 to 5-7. There's 2 games difference there, right? And at this point in the season, a lot of these teams are about to play each other, and this will look drastically different 3 weeks from now. I think the next 4 weeks is really like the who's going to separate themselves. I think we know that unless something really weird happens, Coastal's going to be at the top. They've got a 4-game lead, right?
Yep.
They could get swept this weekend and still be the number 1 team in the conference. But someone from Texas State to App State is actually not somebody, but a couple of teams are either going to fall to the wayside or tremendously climb these standings here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Artie Cat wants to know, is this the last year of the Milk Crate Stadium at Georgia State? Unofficially, it is. They have plans that have come out. They've started the stadium. I would believe that it should be done in time for next baseball season. But look, it's construction. We know what happens there. Sometimes things happen and they're not quite done. I would, though, assume that by the end of next season, they'll certainly be in the stadium, much like ODU this year, right? Their stadium is supposed to be finished this year, but they're still working on it. Is that
it's not 100% done. It's like 80% done, but they're like, we haven't played here in a while. Let's just go ahead and play here and we'll finish it while we can.
Yeah. So a little bit of a strange situation. I think everybody is in the outfield for their games.
Correct.
So a little interesting there. But hopefully, again, once theirs is done, Georgia State gets a new one. Just add to the greatness of the stadiums that are going to be in the Sun Belt Conference for baseball. One last note from me on the standings: those top 6 all have winning records overall. All seem like, if you're just looking at the overall records, like they make sense. Yeah. Right when you get to 7 at JMU, 15-15, the records start dropping there. Again, the Cajuns kind of the outlier to that group, but it's just kind of a strange thing like that. The overall records kind of make sense as you go down. And then, once you look at the conference things, that's where it gets a little jumbled and a little bit of confusing. Artie says, can you imagine them playing in the football stadium at Georgia State? It would be a little weird, although
it's what it was originally intended. That was true. Sport that was originally intended to be played in that stadium, so it wouldn't be that weird.
Yeah, exactly. Although they just released a thing today. I think it was today, at least that I saw it on X. It was today, a master plan for the further development of the area, which includes not a baseball field because that's going to be off-site a little bit, but there is going to be a softball field almost like literally connected to Center Park Stadium, and then an outdoor practice indoor/outdoor practice facility. From the looks of it, it's kind of like what Georgia Southern has, which is covered, but it's not fully enclosed.
Okay.
Typically, probably in Atlanta, you don't need it to be fully enclosed. So there you go. But that's what the design is showing as of right now, which probably makes sense. Like, why not build up around that part? Chris Reitzel saying Coastal standing out. 2nd to 9th is crazy close. Yes, it is. Artie Cat agreeing with him there. So let's jump back and rewind the week that was. So we typically do a little syndicate snapshot of the week, and this one's really quick and easy this week, Marv. There were no sweeps in the conference this past weekend, or half a weekend, if you want to call it that, because we had games Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so because there were no sweeps, no one got swept. So there you go. We don't have anything to cover there.
That's super easy. Keep moving.
Right along. So here is some of the games from this past week. And I don't think we had anything that was truly amazing that stands out. But as we look back at some of the games, so we had a shot at number 10 Virginia, number 5 Georgia. Those didn't go our way with ODU and Georgia State dropping those games. Is there one that stands out as maybe the best win? Again, everybody went Tuesday. It was a shortened week, so there were no other games in the so these were all the games played in the Sun Belt outside of conference. Is there one that stands out to you more than the others?
ULM over La Tech. Obviously La Tech coming into the conference next year. I think that's the best win. There's a pretty obvious worst loss on there. And then there's a pretty obvious close. Well, there's 2 close calls on there. But yeah, the Southern Miss losing to Southern Louisiana, that's the shocking loss. And then Coastal played super close game with the Citadel, and man, Texas State had the lead in that Texas game for a while. And we all know that last year we joked and called them the state champions of Texas. They got a chance at Texas A&M tomorrow night. But I've said on this podcast that I think Texas is the best team in the country. I know UCLA is ranked number 1. We'll see when it all goes down. But 2 close calls, 1 bad loss, and I would consider the ULM over La Tech the best win of the midweek.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, to me, the most disappointing loss, I'd have to agree with you, Southeast Louisiana over Southern Miss. They were just, I mean, it wasn't even close, really. It was 5-0. I think Southern Miss had a kind of a solo shot or something that got them the 1 run right at the very end. The other one, to me, disappointing loss-wise, is McNeese State over Louisiana, really? 10-7? I mean, I don't like that.
With the season the Cajuns are having, it kind of fits, unfortunately.
True. Yep. Biggest win, I guess I just have to go with you, with ULM easily dispatching of La Tech, right? That's a game that's going to mean more in the coming years as they transition into this conference, whenever that officially happens, as Marty Cat knows from listening to Dave over at Locked On Sunbelt, like he's covering all that stuff. I'm going to stay out of some of that because it's just not that interesting, right? The legal battle, the legal process. But yeah, you're right. The Coastal game too, like they were in an absolute dogfight with the Citadel. I think they were down twice in that game before they finally took the lead and won that thing very late, 3-2 over there on the road. So maybe some points for that. New Orleans over South Alabama is one Ben's throwing out. And absolutely, that is a little bit of a surprise. Although what I've said following this conference over the last couple of years in baseball, New Orleans gives our teams a hard time. I don't know why. I don't know how. But
if I'm not mistaken, New Orleans was a regional team, not last year, but the year before that. Traditionally a fairly solid team. And you're right. They play the Sun Belt teams really hard for whatever reason.
Yeah. That's the best way to describe it right there. They just play them hard for some reason. Do they want to be in this conference or something? I don't know, but
got to have a football team to be in the conference.
That's true. Artie's Cat seems to be agreeing with you with Texas. UT is very, very good, which again leads credence to why we have Texas State at number 3 when they're competing with a team that is number 2 and in some people's minds number 1 in the country as far as baseball is concerned. So we'll jump over to see not every game, but the Sun Belt specific conference play scoreboard from the weekend. Now, any series that were completed before Saturday's finals are not here, as Texas State had already dispatched Georgia Southern and Georgia State had already taken care of ULM. But is there a series, again, no sweeps, no one got swept. No. Is there a series that surprises you the most in this one?
Man.
Good or bad outcome. You don't have to do separate. You can just say it's just the biggest surprise.
You know what? Let's break it down series by series really quick, right?
Okay.
App takes the series against Marshall, lose the first game 12-6. We're winning until the middle innings. I think in that first game, Marshall scores 8 runs in the 5th, 6th, and 7th combined. Come back to win the series. Surprising? No. That series could have gone 2-1 either way, right? Coastal had a hard-fought series with South Alabama, right? They lost the second game 15-2. We talked about it snapping their 32-game conference winning streak. And then the last game, they went on a walk-off, right? That was a very close competitive series. Almost the exact same thing for Southern Miss. Walk-off to win the rubber match, to win the game in an 8-7 game. Surprising, I think, would be the last three. Texas State, I expected them to beat Georgia Southern. Troy lose or Arkansas State losing to Troy surprises me a little bit. I think if you would have not known anything about the conference this year and just looked at previous years, you would be like, oh, yeah, well, Troy's supposed to win that. Well, Troy hasn't been playing great baseball, and Arkansas State was playing really good baseball. Same thing with ULM and Georgia State. Same thing with JMU beating the Cajuns. I thought this was kind of the weekend that the Cajuns would right the ship. I thought this was the weekend that Arkansas State would separate themselves. And I thought it was the weekend that ULM would say, hey, man, we're here, right? So those three, in my opinion, and if I had to pick one that surprises me the most, I would say Arkansas State. Once again, I think they had a phenomenal chance to say, hey, we are top 4 for sure, maybe top 3, and just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like this stat from Ben James here. All 3 games ended in a 6-4 final. It just alternated which team between Arkansas State and Troy won the game.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that when I looked it up. I have it written down now that I look at it. I'm like, holy crap.
Well, what's so funny is as I do this scoreboard, as we share it on socials and stuff, every time I did it, I was like, oh, I didn't change that score yet. Oh, I didn't change that score yet. And I'm like, no, I did change that score. It's just like literally the same. Just had to make sure the 4 and the 6 were in the right spot for which side of the equation it was on, which is just nuts. And the one that maybe surprised a lot of people was JMU over the Cajuns. That's one of the ones I got right in the pick'em. It wasn't like I fully believed in it, but I thought it could happen. And so I took the chance that, like, yeah, this is one no one else will choose. So I got lucky on that. I won't lie. I'm not going to sit there and say, like, I was very confident, would have put $100 on it kind of thing. No. But, I took a chance on that one. Warhawks, I'm sporting the shirt tonight. I would have thought they would have taken down Georgia State. But I'm not sure which one I'd even say is the most shocking. And I don't know if there's one that's good in a shocking way. I don't think anybody blew anybody out of the water this weekend, which makes me think like I'm leaning to which one is the most surprising in like somebody let me down. And I don't think it's a clear answer there either. Because you could.
If I'm looking back, I think 6 of the 7 series, the third game was the rubber game.
Yes.
Texas State had the series won before they lost their last game, but every other series, that third game mattered, which is what you want to see when you get this deep in the conference. And we always talk about how hard sweeps are to get, but man, there's been a lot of sweeps coming into this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. There had been, and this is the first time we hadn't had one. So very interesting. Again, this is even with what we'd probably still consider a down year for the Sun Belt for the second year in a row. I don't know, Marv, if you're kind of on board with that, or if our top 2 teams good enough to say that's not necessarily the case.
That's the only thing that would make me not say that is we have 2 teams that looking at the D1 rankings from today, you've got that's RP. I don't want to look at that.
Should be 10 and 11, I think, for USM and Coastal.
Yeah, Coastal is 11. Southern Miss is 10. Southern Miss did drop 2 spots. Coastal gained 3 spots. So can you say that your conference is down when you have 2 teams essentially ranked in the top 10? I think the part that we're considering the down is typically like 3 through 6 are phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a Dolphin. And I still think they are. I still think Texas State, Arkansas State, South Alabama are really good. ULM, I'm doubting them a little bit right now and think there's still a lot to play out, but it's really hard for me to agree with that statement when you have 2 teams in the top 10.
True. There's people that all still want to consider us a mid-major baseball program. It's like, guys, we got guys littered all over national leaderboards as individuals. I'm going to put some graphics out. I didn't do it for tonight. I'll put them out for tomorrow or something. And we've got teams, numerous teams in the top 25 and have been throughout the majority of the season.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But hey, we have some shots on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We do have Tuesday and Wednesday games this week, but check out this slate. Got James Madison traveling to face UVA, number 13 UVA on the road here. And then we have Marshall on the road at West Virginia. I actually believe this game, if I'm not mistaken, has already been moved to Wednesday due to impending cold weather. So that tells me West Virginia is scared to lose to Marshall. That's what that tells me. We got a rematch of the Cajuns and the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cajuns versus McNeese State again. So that should be an interesting one. One I'm going to be at personally tomorrow afternoon in Durham, North Carolina. Coastal Carolina takes on Wake Forest. So Wake Forest is listed as the home team. They are not playing at home. This one will be in Durham Bulls Athletic Park here in Durham.
It's awesome.
Just 20 minutes away. That
Wake
game starts.
Forest was ranked earlier this year. Coastal beat them once.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Marv.
No, that'll be a really good game. I'm trying to find out what Wake Forest's RPI is. If that's
that, because what I can tell you is I was half expecting by the time this game came around, because I first looked at going to this game at the beginning of the season, blah blah blah. Wake Forest was ranked at some point, blah blah blah.
24 RPI.
24. Okay, so I half expected when I saw the new D1 rankings come out, say Wake Forest could be at the very bottom of this thing, and I didn't think they would jump way up high or anything, but thought they would be up possibly in the 24-25 spot just after this past weekend. And
they're 23-10. They're 5-5 in the ACC, but 23-10.
Yeah, and I think there was at least one series where they got like swept, and it was somebody who wasn't great, if not mistaken. So that's probably what dropped them out of the rankings. But again, it's the ACC. They have every opportunity to jump back up to the rankings with a couple big wins in some series. But this was a game, I believe, went Coastal's way 10-6, I believe, in the first round of this one.
Yes.
The last 10 games between these two teams, 5-5, both teams. So this one should be pretty good. They typically put on a good show. The New Orleans team we just talked about, traveling on the road to Pete Taylor Park, that's going to be an interesting game just to see how Southern Miss handles, a team that can be feisty and a little hard for some of our teams to beat. Arkansas State gets another shot at Memphis, a game they probably should not have dropped last week. That logo there that looks like verses in green and red and white is Mississippi Valley State going over to ULM. Let's see if ULM can get back to some winning ways against a team that they should beat. And Texas State gets yet another shot at another Texas team, and Texas A&M currently ranked number 18 in the country. Do you want to just put it together and say what's the best game between Tuesday and Wednesday, or do you want to do it for Tuesday and then we move on to Wednesday's schedule?
I mean, on this page, I would have to go Coastal Wake Forest at Durham Bulls Athletic Park. I think that's pretty cool. I also think that Texas A&M Texas State game is pretty good.
Yeah, I want to see if Texas State can get that done because, as we talked about, number 3 in our rankings, that would put a stranglehold. If they could beat a ranked team like this after playing Texas close, that starts to see like, hey, who wants it? Texas State's going to want it, right? I mean, they're trying to grab it, but can they get it done against a Texas?
Ben James calling New Orleans over Southern Miss. That would we talked about how New Orleans plays all our teams close. That would be another back-to-back nasty midweek loss for Southern Miss, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do have to also talk about the regionality of some of these matchups too. ODU, William and Mary, I believe that's another game between two teams that have already played. App State, UNCA, which is UNC Asheville. They just played last week. Asheville got the better. No. App State.
Yeah, App State run with them for that game, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. Wofford playing Georgia State, so not too far away from each other. I think we talked about all the other games. So let's jump over to that Wednesday slate. I'll go ahead and say Coastal and Wake Forest is my top game as I'm going to go to it. So that one's probably not hard to figure out there. Cajuns, 2 nights in a row here. They're going to go play Southeast Louisiana. All right, I think they have 2 nights. Don't they have a game on Tuesday? Yeah, they play McNeese.
Yeah, and then they get to play a team that just beat Southern Miss.
Just
time to play Southern Miss.
And we'll get to this in a minute, but those 2 teams play each other over the weekend set. So, yeah, this will be a nice little preview as to how teams match up and what to maybe expect. Troy gets the Florida A&M Rattlers again. They just played last week. Troy won that one. Texas State then plays Stephen F. Austin. So Texas State does not have an easy week before they get into conference play again. The Cajuns
right now, while you are in conference play, playing 2 midweek games makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's tough.
I mean, you want to talk about bullpen attrition and just like wear and tear on your day-to-day starters, like it doesn't make any sense to me.
The only part that does make sense is, hey, we have this Stephen F. Austin game. Hey, Texas A&M just called and they want a game that week too. RPI.
Yeah, you call Stephen F. Austin back and you're like, hey man, not this year.
Yeah, we'll give you some of the money that Texas A&M is going to pay us, and we'll just transfer it to you because we don't want both. Yeah, no, that's true. It is going to be tough, but if they could take both of those heading into the weekend, RPI gets a really nice bump.
A massive
looking pretty good in the conference play. But then, like you said, talking about how many starters you use during the week, you have those guys available when you need them over the weekend. So it could be a tough thing. South Alabama takes on Alabama State. Should be a win for South Alabama. Should be, but you never know. Some of these teams have had some letdown games, and we'll see what happens. Is there one that sticks out to you on the docket for Wednesday? Just
no.
I'll say the Cajuns in Southeast Louisiana because of what you could kind of take from that game. But other than that, yeah, not a huge standout game after the big slate on Tuesday. Oh, and I forgot to do our little, series of the week here, so we'll get into that. So we've got ODU matching up with Marshall, Southern Miss going on the road to play the Cajuns, JMU traveling to Atlanta to play Georgia State, Coastal taking on Arkansas State in Jonesboro, South Alabama on the road in Statesboro, Georgia to play Georgia Southern, ULM, the Warhawks traveling to App State in Boone. Maybe a little cold, maybe a little chilly weather. I'm not sure. I haven't looked.
I think the weekend in Boone's supposed to be, if it's anything like it's going to be here, it's supposed to be really nice. I'm gonna fact check that real quick. Let's see.
Nice. Well, then we've got Troy versus Texas State. That one in Salam Marcos there. Well, first of all, let's go back to the weather. Is it supposed to be gorgeous in Boone?
Sunny and 70 all week.
Oh, what a horrible outlook.
Yeah. For the Warhawks, you got lucky.
Yeah. It could have been 42 and almost snowing. You never know this time of year up there.
Listen, this is another weekend, in my opinion, where there's really no marquee matchup, right? You don't have any of the 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3, but this is another separation style weekend for me, right? So ODU, who just found their way to the bottom of our rankings, plays Marshall, who just lost the series. Does Marshall want to get back in the hunt? JMU's playing a little bit hot right now. Do they want to continue to climb the standings? App and ULM, that's, ULM wins that series. They kind of move up. App loses that series. It's not looking – you're not in desperation mode, but you don't need to lose this series right now. We were talking before this, App's got a kind of a stretch of weekends where if they could pull together 4 out of 6 series wins, they could find themselves in the top 6 of the conference. Southern Miss needs to separate. Arkansas State, Coastal, if I had to put a nod on it, that would be mine. Does Coastal continue to win series and kind of drop Arkansas State? Does Texas State stay hot against Troy? And does South Alabama bounce back against Georgia Southern? Once again, ODU Marshall's got an opportunity to really climb back up. JMU is playing a little bit hot. They get a chance to move up. App State, ULM, someone's going up, someone's going down. And then, all the middle series there is like, hey, are the best teams in the conference who we think they are? And then can South Alabama come back up? But, yeah, so no super marquee matchup. But, man, this is kind of who wants to shuffle the cards and end up on top.
Yeah, I don't disagree fully, but I will say, before the season, Southern Miss versus Louisiana was a absolute marquee. Circle it, double dot it, whatever you need to do. I'm still going to say, because of the fan bases, because of what just happened with the coach at Louisiana and, all that stuff, like there's still going to be some heat and some intensity to this matchup. So I'm going to point to that one as like the series of the week. Yeah. Recency bias, history between those two programs being powerful baseball programs and not liking each other all that much. It's now transitioning over to football, some basketball to some extent, but baseball is where the heat is at the most. So I'll point to that one. But like you said, nothing else is like one of those true, like these two teams, all this history, blah, blah, blah. JMU versus Georgia State's really interesting. Like you just said, JMU got the victory over the Cajuns. Georgia State got the victory over ULM. Like these two teams coming in, I wouldn't say on necessarily hot streaks, but like what's your next step? Whoever wins this series,
tied for third in the conference.
Yeah. So it's very, very interesting what we're going to get out of this weekend. Like you said, I think you called it separation weekend, didn't you?
In last weekend, like you said, last weekend had the potential to be separation weekend. The teams that I thought were going to separate didn't separate. And now we're kind of back into a separation weekend again. Is every team going to separate? No, we'll probably have the same conversation again next weekend. That's what makes this so much fun and why we love doing it. But, there are some opportunities across the board for some teams to take a massive step forward. And there are some places where some teams can absolutely stumble and say, well, holy shit, 2 weeks ago, we had a really good season going and we were looking like a top 4 team. And now here we are tied for 6, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunity for success and a lot of opportunity for teams to stumble on this board.
There absolutely is. We had a couple people jump in right at the end here. Chad Dickens being one of them. What's up, Dominic? Chad had the opportunity to do something really awesome this weekend. He was out golfing and got to shoot a golf ball out of a cannon.
Nice.
Made specifically for golf ball cannon. It got to launch it and all this stuff. So that looks like a lot of fun. I told him that was the way I wanted to golf from now on.
That's the only chance I have of being successful at golf is something else does the work for me.
Same, exactly the same. So, but it looked pretty funny. I had the video of it. So if you're a follower of his or want to be, go check that out because that's pretty cool. Tim Reitzel tagged Chris Reitzel. So hopefully that's like, hey, man, check this show out because it's awesome. It's the best Sunbelt baseball show that exists in the planet because it's the only one. So
right. We're number one.
We're number one by default. Shout out.
We got to do another bourbon and baseball show with Chad, by the way.
Yeah. We do need to do that. That was a good time. Pairing bourbons with baseball teams.
Just make sure I don't have anything on the schedule until noon on Tuesday.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's one where you want to indulge a little bit. So before we get any sponsors that say, hey, you can't do that anymore, we need to have one of those. He's saying, yes, we do.
Unless we can get sponsored by Eagle Rare, Wellers, or Buffalo Trace, and we'll gladly do it every week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cigars, bourbon, whatever. We'll do it all. I can't smoke down here, but I'll just enjoy a cigar every once in a while.
I'll let you a cigar and I'll drink the bourbon. How's that?
Well, I'm not even a big cigar guy, but occasionally, for some fun, celebratory, of course,
There you go.
But then James jumping in saying, hopefully A-State can get back into some smash mouth baseball. Yeah, hopefully for their sake, they can do that. We'll see if that's what can happen. Marv, any closing thoughts to leave the people with before we get out of here?
No, just looking forward to another weekend and looking forward to one of those 3 through 6 teams saying, hey, I'm legit, or not 3 through 6, I think Texas State is, but like 4 through 7. Like somebody's got to step up and say, hey, I'm legit. You can keep me on the left-hand side of this power ranking for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the Coastal versus Wake Forest matchup tomorrow. I'll be there. Be there with my son. We'll provide some sort of coverage for you on the socials if you're tracking us. And so just keep an eye out for that. And we will see you guys from the field. See you later.